Doctors have a new tool to fight COVID-19. Health Canada approved Pfizer's new therapeutic drug today. It is an oral antiviral medication, and it's designed to help infected people fight off the virus. It's called Paxlovid. It is approved for use in adults 18 years and older. Pfizer studies show an 89% decrease in the risk of hospitalization or death from a COVID-19 infection. The Canadian government's initial buy on this is 1 million treatment courses. Pfizer believes the treatment will work against the Omicron variant. Kevin Mohamed is country lead for Pfizer Canada's hospital business. He's in Montreal. Mr. Mohamed, thanks for coming on the program.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
I wanted to talk about the delivery schedule for what Canada has ordered. The Canadian government, we know, has signed a deal with Pfizer for an initial 1 million courses of Paxlovid. So what's the schedule going to look like?
So as you can imagine, the global demand for this product is really significant. Canada is going to be getting 150,000 treatment courses over the next 90 days, with then another ramp up to deliver on the 1 million courses that we negotiated with Canada for this year.
It did sound a little bit that you're trying to temper expectations off the top, that there's so much demand. Is there a concern that we won't get what we've paid for and what we've ordered on that schedule? That will we actually receive more than 150,000 courses by the end of March?
So Pfizer is leveraging the full scale of its manufacturing to meet on its commitment to deliver on the treatment courses that we negotiated. And we have full confidence in our manufacturing capacity in order to do so. Pfizer produces about 24 billion pills with a B per year, and our CEO has already declared that we are able to produce 120 million treatment courses. That's for 120 million patients around the world, 1 million of which will be destined for Canada.
And so when can we expect to receive the full 1 million doses?
The 1 million are slated for delivery this year.
This year, by the end of the year. Okay.
Yeah.
In terms of what this is costing, the U.S. government has agreed to pay Pfizer $530 for each treatment course of Paxlovid. Is Canada paying a similar rate?
So as with commercial terms negotiated with the government, those terms haven't been disclosed. But what I can share with you is that Pfizer has taken an equitable approach to pricing this medication throughout the world. There are high-income countries, there are lower-income countries. And what we've done is have a tiered pricing where Canada will pay the same price as it does to other similar countries of its size.
So Canada, it's fair to say, is paying a similar rate to the U.S.?
Canada is paying a similar rate to the countries in its tier and its similar size. It's an equitable process that we do to price the product across the countries in the world.
Pfizer's CEO was saying last week that Pfizer is aiming to make up to 120 million courses this year. You did mention the demand for this global market. Is Pfizer looking at any other methods to try to boost manufacturing capacity?
I think Pfizer, as it did with the vaccines, is always looking for ways to ensure we're able to meet the medical needs that are required for COVID in Canada and around the world. And I'm certain that our CEO will not leave any stone unturned in order to make sure that we can meet those demands. The 120 million treatment courses is leveraging the significant scale and manufacturing capacity that Pfizer has, luckily being one of the largest pharmaceutical manufacturers in the world. So we are very confident that we'll be able to meet this demand and adapt accordingly.
You know, health officials here say this is an important tool in their toolkit as we try to fight this pandemic and fight Omicron and COVID-19, continue that fight. But it is still a product, and you represent a pharmaceutical company. There is a lot of skepticism, as you know, from people who don't feel comfortable getting the vaccine. They don't trust pharmaceutical companies. So in addition to the pitch and the promises, what do you say to people who don't trust companies like yours?
Well, you know, if you look at the data that was used and submitted to Health Canada in order to get approval for Paxlovid, it is actually quite compelling. I mean, when Pfizer started the development program of this product, it did so recognizing that as great as our vaccination programs are, there will be a vulnerable segment of our society which will have breakthrough infection and unfortunately may get quite sick. And this is what Paxlovid was designed for. So this is going to be an important treatment. It's a tool. It's one more tool. It's a treatment strategy on top of our fundamental preventive vaccine strategy. And for those most vulnerable, it has demonstrated a significant benefit in preventing them from getting so sick that they end up in our healthcare system. Actually, in the clinical trial submitted to Health Canada to gain our approval, 90% of high-risk patients taking Paxlovid in our clinical trials, that was the reduction in hospitalization and death in those patients. So it is meaningful, and we think over time, as this tool gets integrated within our healthcare system, we should make a meaningful difference to improve some of the outcomes related to COVID-19.
Before we do let you go, I want to ask about something else that Pfizer says it is working on, an Omicron-specific vaccine. The CEO was saying last week that Pfizer's Omicron vaccine is set to be ready in March. And here in Canada, we've got a booster program being rolled out for vaccines that we already have. So how does Pfizer envision this variant-specific vaccine can be used? And there could be potentially another variant even in the future, right?
So I think Pfizer, through its development program, has worked really hard to evaluate the status of COVID and to find ways to help all of us in our global fight against COVID-19. The vaccine that was launched, us and for other manufacturers just over a year ago, represented that first tool. Paxlovid represents a treatment tool to build on top of that. And I think all pharmaceutical companies, including Pfizer, are going to be evaluating strategies to go forward because, as you have seen, this has been an evolving disease. And Pfizer and other companies are trying really hard to make sure that we try and stay on top of it and try to manage what has been a very difficult pandemic for all of us. Has
the Canadian government been in talks with Pfizer about procuring this next vaccine that you're working on?
I can't speak to that. I know that our vaccination program continues in providing the Pfizer vaccine we have today to the Canadian government, and it's continuing to be rolled out with the evidence and the goals of trying to get this disease under control and to prevent as many of our patients from ending up in hospital as possible.
As we look to the future, and we have to be cautious about how we do that, obviously, but when you look at the future of COVID-19 vaccines, is the Pfizer view that variant-specific vaccines, as opposed to a universal kind of vaccine, is what we are going to need?
Well, that's a question I think that's best left to the scientists. I can speak to the treatments that we have today. We have the current Pfizer vaccine, among other vaccines that are still the fundamental preventive strategy that governments are rolling out. And I think if you look at the hospitalizations, clearly vaccines have had a meaningful impact in preventing severe disease. And Paxlovid, which we announced the approval of today, is one more tool to help us try and manage what has been an evolving and difficult disease.
Mr. Mohamed, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.